Welcome, everyone, to the June 17th workshop meeting for the City of Reading Planning Commission. I am Wayne Beeler. I am chairman of the commission. This being a workshop meeting, we do not need a quorum because we don't have one. I see Wilson Fisi, the vice chairman, is joining us, and most likely a few of the other members will be joining us very shortly. He's connecting, so
Yeah, it's connecting.
so
We have Max. This is a representative representing Michelle Mayfield.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jamie with CHA, and then Jerome is with us. So what I will do is I will turn over the discussion to Jerome Skrinkowski to talk about the Reading School District Central Middle School Land Development Plan, athletic and auditorium facility at Central Middle School.
Okay. We received a sketch plan application from the Reading School District for the Central Middle School. This is for their athletic and auditorium facility as well as off-street parking area. Is anyone from the Reading School District here?
Yes, actually Wayne and a number of representatives are here, Jerome.
Okay. What I'll just do is I'll go through my report briefly, and which is in order to provide them guidance and direction for the next step, and so we can successfully move forward with this project. The site of the project is a 7.34 acre property located at 215 North 12th Street. This portion of the property this property is currently being utilized for as an educational use. The sketch plan application for the new athletic and auditorium facility includes 3 plan sheets, and it was prepared by Dawood Engineering. It also includes supplemental information, which I can get into a little bit later. The site's located within the R3 zoning district, and a special exception was previously granted to this property back in when it became the middle school back in 2006. We had asked the zoning office to review that application to see if an expansion would be permissible, or if the applicant would be required to go in and request a new special exception. So Emily would typically handle that aspect of it, but we will definitely need to coordinate that with her and provide direction to the applicant. The new athletic field, the new athletic and auditorium facility should meet the requirements that are specified by the R3 zoning district, in which it appears that it does. Zoning relief was previously granted by Zoning Hearing Board Appeal 2006-74, and we had asked that the applicant also discuss compliance with the zoning office further. Moving over to page 2, the applicant did submit elevations and and floor plans for the site. They are located on page 2 and 3 of their proposal. If available, the applicant should provide architectural renderings just to see how it conforms or complies with our zoning requirements. The existing building located at 239 Locust Street will be demolished, and so we had asked the applicant to coordinate efforts with the Building and Trades Office. A portion of the property of the proposed building will be located on area identified as Butler Alley, which is a partially improved alley and extends from the south from Clifford Street and terminates within the property. We're not exactly sure what this is. Maybe the folks at the Reading School District would know. It looks like, or appears to be, maybe some form of a utility easement that went through the property. Either case, it would need to be either abandoned and then annexed to the lands of the Reading School District in order for this project to work. So we can come back to that one. The applicant is proposing new off-street parking located on the west side of Locust Street and modifications to an existing off-street parking area. The off-street parking areas are permitted by the R3 zoning district, and we could evaluate compliance as the preliminary plan is brought in, but it meets those requirements. The site is also located in the steep slope overlay district, and it's our opinion at this point that these were mostly man-made slopes that were created in the past as a result of St. Joseph's Hospital and possibly other improvements that were done in this area for residential development. So we had asked that a topographical assessment be conducted as part of the preliminary plan just to properly assess those. If the zoning office determines that these are man-made, or I'm sorry, natural slopes, and they are over 15%, then we would have to go through the relief that's necessary for those. But I don't think that it would be required for this project. Clifford Street provides vehicular connection between North 12th and Locust Street. The functional use of this road segment is very limited in terms of providing accessibility for vehicles and or pedestrians. So we're asking that Public Works examines this in a little bit more detail when we get to the preliminary plan stage. And the same thing with curbs, sidewalks, and ramps along Locust and Clifford. We should take the opportunity to evaluate those and make sure that we have a good pedestrian system within this area. Moving forward, and these are just preliminary plan requirements. A lighting plan is going to be required. A landscaping plan will be required. A solid waste management plan will be required. Same thing with signs. With sanitary sewage, we met with the applicant as part of the one-stop session. And what we typically do for a project like this is compare previous wastewater flows to projected wastewater flows. I don't think that there's going to be an increase in enrollment or faculty staff for this project. It's just a matter of we just need to document that the flows balance. And if they do balance, then a planning module is not required. If there's going to be an increase in wastewater flows, then a planning module is required. With respects to water supply, the plan should be reviewed by the agencies with jurisdictions. And we had also asked that fire and rescue weigh in also in terms of evaluating the fire hydrants, standpipes, and or related emergency response facilities in this area. That's typically done at the preliminary plan stage as well. A stormwater management plan and erosion and sedimentation control plan will be required. We had asked that the applicant check with all utility providers to make sure that there's no complications with service, and that the applicant meet with building and trades. And that basically concludes it. A municipal improvements agreement and stormwater management maintenance agreement will be required. It sounds like a lot, but the Reading School District has been very successful with their 3 other projects that they presented before us in the last 5 years. So this one will be a challenge, and best of luck. So that's all I have.
Things I wanted to go over. As we were talking before the meeting started, we were talking about Butler Alley, and that would require a vacation that would need to be submitted to city council. Luckily, it's not as complicated as I remember. So I think that should be that shouldn't really be a problem, especially since you're you're not going to be starting this in September.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Garrison, the Chief Financial Officer for the Range School District. And Jerome, thank you for the overview of our project. And I think that, Kevin Biller, as you said, we know there's quite a lot we're looking to put into this small space. But we feel it would certainly benefit our students. One of the things you mentioned about timing is we're certainly going through all of the processes now to ensure that we have everything lined up in the right order, to ensure that we do have a smooth project. As Jerome had mentioned, we've had success in 3 of our existing projects, and we will certainly want to continue with that to ensure that we have buy-in from all of our community partners and government partners as well. So we're here today kind of just talk about what some of the concerns might be that you may raise, try to address those before we bring it for you. We're looking forward to having a successful project. This project in general, when you think of how large Central Middle School is, one of the things that we've identified through conversations with our students, when we converted that to a 5 to 8 grade range, a couple things came out of it. One, of all of this being a 5th middle school, it is the one that does not have an auditorium. And secondly, when we met with our 5th graders, as they were formerly at the elementary, they had recess and all the kind of fun things they could do. They said, we want to have an opportunity to have more free time, more ability to have a little more fun during school. So with the size of the school, we recognize that we would need another facility to be able to support that. So we do have the outside space on running along 13th Street, but with the gymnasium in use for the majority of the day, we felt we needed another space. So what better way to do it than to have a flexible space between a gymnasium and an auditorium? And for those that were involved in reviewing the STEM Academy, if you can think of our common space where we have our cafeteria, but we also have a very high wall of bleachers that allow for us to pull those bleachers out and create a lecture space for 1,000 students. So very similar effect here, where we'd be able to utilize the gymnasium with the bleachers out, which would be at on the narrow end of the court behind a basket, and that would come out to allow for the viewing in an auditorium style. And I think that it best meets the needs of that building. Unfortunately, that auditorium just wasn't built when it was originally renovated into the intermediate high school. So with that, we certainly looked at what are the other concerns that we have. We have a space for it where the storage garage is now, the large lot. It would have access to the building on the west end of the building. But we also looked at some of the things that Jerome talked about, the sidewalks, the street that's on Locust Street, the space that is really kind of an overgrown lot that really needs to be renovated. And with that, that would give us some additional drop-off space for sporting events, and also provide parking for our ESL Welcome Center that's located on Locust Street as well during the day. In some cases, we have our visitors that come to the Welcome Center on Locust Street. They will park in the parking garage and work their way all the way down to the bottom. But depending on when school's in session, it's very difficult to get onto 12th Street to enter into the lot. So that additional parking that would be on Locust Street across the street from our new facility would allow to provide that parking for our visitors to the Welcome Center. So that's kind of a high overview of why we are looking to do this and what the plans are. I'm here with our architect, our construction manager, and also our site civil engineer, and they can certainly provide additional information, more detailed information. So again, thank you for your time and your assistance on this. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Wayne. We were asked to put together something in the form of a PowerPoint presentation, which we can
walk through
walk
rather
through
quickly.
rather quickly.
And I would like to. All right, here we go. I would like to.
I would like to get into it. Briefly, give you an overview of what we've done so far in the way of schematic design and turn it over to Tom Godfrey as our civil engineer, who can get into the specifics of this sketch plan. Paula, do you have that pulled up? Simon, is it okay if I stand up by the screen?
Please.
It just might be a little easier to understand.
Can the team online see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, the first slide is an aerial bird's eye view of Central Middle School complex. We're flying on the west side of the property looking east. And we're kind of on the north side of Elm Street, it is, right? So the white building, the lower right-hand corner is the parking deck. The elongated brick and insulated metal panel structure coming down to the parking garage is what we call the A wing of the Central Middle School. And the rest of this complex is the Central Middle School. The existing gymnasium is in the very back corner of this picture, sort of fronting on the green space on 13th Street. 12th Street cuts along the building here and underneath the A wing over to Walnut, and Locust Street is one way from Walnut along the face of the parking deck. This is the empty lot that Wayne had referred to. There's a surface parking lot there now, bituminous paved surface lot, and a concrete masonry unit, single-story storage building. And what we looked at was the possibility of creating a new facility that physically connects to the A wing so that students have direct access into this new facility and is convenient to the parking deck if we need to have parking to access the facility for an event. Okay, this has now flipped 90 degrees. So the parking deck is in the lower left-hand corner. North is up on this image. The street to the far right is 13th, the green space. Here you can clearly see where Pablo had his cursor is the existing gymnasium. The A wing is here crossing over 12th Street. Our empty lot is here. And this gray box is the roof of the storage building. This is the area that Wayne had referred to as supplemental parking for the ESL Welcome Center, which is identified down here with the number 210 on it. This is a graphic image of that, basically just showing the area of design concern for us. The red dashed line represents the existing storage building that would be demolished. This slide is now superimposing the footprint of the Central Middle School Athletic Auditorium Flexible Facility. It is contemplated to be a one-story on grade with potentially, we're also examining a second floor level below grade. Each floor level is approximately 18,000 square feet. So if you imagine this as the existing gym component in the lower right-hand corner of this image, you can kind of superimpose it over here and sense that we're a little bit narrower than this box, but we're a little bit longer. So it represents a full-sized athletic facility for high school, intermediate school, any level really. Basketball, volleyball, any indoor sport that wants to be utilized, it will be set up to accommodate. The level below the level at grade off of Locust Street is being designed to be a full-time wrestling facility which would be a new thing for Reading, as I understand it, correct? So this would be providing a wrestling venue for this district that should be capable of accommodating boys and girls year round as a year round facility for practice and possibly interscholastic competition. So that's something that we're seriously contemplating. We have some, well, we'll look at that on the floor plans. The tone space here is the grassy area that is sloped to the west, downhill to the backyards of those homes along 11th Street. And that's where we're thinking about parking accommodation for the Welcome Center. This is just a three-dimensional view to help you understand what we're looking at. This is Walnut and Locust. This is the front, what would be the front of the new facility. And over here to the left is, this is Locust coming off of Walnut back here. This is the parking deck. That's the A wing from the middle school. This image to the left agrees with the first photograph that we saw of the bird's eye view photograph. This would be the parking area next to the Welcome Center. This is a site survey of the existing site. Prior to our beginning the project, you can see the storage building, you can see the parking to the north of the A wing off 12th Street. You would come down Clifford Street, which was talked about, and this is Buffalo Alley. We see on previous drawings it referred to as Buffalo Alley, I think, and I think in Jerome's assessment it was called Butler Alley. It might be. What we saw was Buffalo. We want to straighten that out and know what we're talking about there. But this is the alley that we'd like to vacate. Clifford Street comes 20 feet wide down to this point and then narrows down to 10 feet till it makes it to Locust. Next slide. This is our sketch plan, and I'd rather not say anything about it. I'd rather turn it over to Tom to do that, but let's skip past it really quick so we can just show them our floor plans and then they can better understand. The top floor plan represents the floor level at grade off of Locust Street. We have a primary point of entry off of Locust here. We can also park into the parking deck and exit out of the parking deck directly into that entrance location on what would be the southwest corner of the new facility. You can see the new facility is superimposing a couple of images at once. It's identifying bleacher seating that rolls out for basketball viewing on the main court, which, as I said, is like an NCAA. It's a 94 by 50 floor, and then this bleacher seating to the right on this plan is bleacher seating that relates to auditorium use and assembly use. Down at this end of the gym, on the north end of the gym, we're planning a roughly 50 foot by 40 foot. Does that sound right? We're just looking at the day. No, it's not 40 feet. It's 50 feet by 20 feet stage area with seating on the floor, plus the bleacher seating. These seats would be retracted, and we'd have seating for roughly 900 to 1,000 students to take in an assembly. There are bathrooms and lockers and stairs and an elevator on south side, bathrooms, lockers, and stairs on the north side. If we work this out as an auditorium space, the bathrooms and lockers on this end will be converted not to bathrooms and lockers, but to storage space for our seating and temporary stage construction. All those components would need to be stored. We just had a meeting today about that, and we're happy to know that we've got more than enough space there to take a big stage, put it away, and all the seating that we need to accommodate the space. On the floor level below, it's laid out for wrestling. We have the capability of cutting it in half as we do on the first floor for the gym, so that the district would intend to, for most of the use of this space, be using it as phys ed, a daily phys ed space where they could have boys and girls separated if they wanted to on the upper level of the gym floor level, or run a girls and boys wrestling programs simultaneously on the level below. And again, there are lockers and restrooms and vertical circulation elements on the north and south perimeter. That's it in a nutshell. Is there anything else, Pablo, we want to talk about? The elevations. These are very, very schematic, but these give an idea of the long elevation on Locust Street. We'll have windows extending, actually some windows will extend down to grade. The main entrance is to the southwest corner. We're thinking about a combination of brick and insulated metal panel above the brick at the window height. And you can see it sits on the hill at roughly the same 5% slope that the hill is. The roof is a sloping standing seam metal roof. These sections give you an idea of the space. There's a mezzanine coming off of the A wing, so students that are coming from the A wing would come down onto the mezzanine level and then either come down by elevator or stair to the main gym level or to the floor level with the wrestling. This is a longitudinal section through the building north-south with the stairs. Those are bleachers that are standing against the wall on the opposite wall. We're looking at 28 feet clear ceiling condition to the underside of structure and any kind of obstruction over the gym space on the upper level, and somewhere between 12 and 13 feet clear at the wrestling floor level. Tom, with that, let's get you back to the serious information.
So as had been previously kind of well described here, the project is mainly consisting of two aspects. You've got the new athletic and auditorium facility in that space between the existing parking deck and Clifford Alley, shown here in red, in a red highlights. Underneath that in blue represents the existing features of the site that would be demolished. For the most part, you see the sort of irregular right away, which represents the existing alley that we're contemplating or would require to vacate. With that, the building is situated such that it's to be connected to the existing A wing, which is coming off of 12th Street here in a longitudinal or east-west fashion. So with that, the new building connecting to that, it actually overlaps with Buffalo Alley, and we contemplate actually reconfiguring the access to that existing parking lot from Clifford. One of the things that I think Mike had mentioned is on the east side of Buffalo Alley, Clifford Street is actually paved to 20 feet wide. I believe the right of way is only 10, but it's paved to 20 feet wide. And as soon as you get to Buffalo Alley, it narrows down to 10 feet. The right of way continues as 10 feet, but the existing improvement is actually a brick alley that's about 10 feet, and it's directly on the south side of the existing block building, directly abuts it. So there's really only 10 feet of space there at max. That existing block building would come out, and this building, as proposed, would provide greater setback from both Clifford on the north. We've got basically a curb line and a paved space to create a little bit more functional access there in emergency situations, and also off of Locust Street, be pulled back from Locust as well. Project also at this point is contemplating connections, direct connections with a doorway for access to the parking garage at both the lower level at Locust Street, and also possibly, if we can make it work, on the upper level, the next level up. There's some challenges, I believe, that may make that difficult, but we're still evaluating that. The other part of the project is the parking area. As it's shown right now, it's a single bay, a half bay of parking. You've got parking along Locust and a one-way circulation. As we're contemplating, since Locust Street is one-way north, we would envision that the parking would function the same way. Ideally, Locust Street's only 15 to 16 feet wide. That would be something we want to maybe discuss with the city about possibly making that no parking. It's extremely tight to get in and out of there when there are cars parked along the street. But as I said, it's one-way entrance from the south, continues on to the north. Because the site is sloped, it would require some sort of retaining wall. So what we have here is a retaining wall and some buffer on both the east and the west of that, to try to match up with the ordinance. We would have to probably look at whether there should be some additional screen plantings or buffering plantings to soften that on the west side of the wall as well. Most of the properties to the west already have fences or walls, opaque fences, I should say, that I don't know if they'd even see it, but some things to consider there. For the most part, the project shouldn't be affected by utilities, other than the fact there are services that currently enter the building, Wing A, from Locust Street. We would probably be relocating the bulk of them around, possibly through. There's an existing sanitary that runs through there. As Jerome had mentioned, the intent right now is that this is supplementing the existing use and complementing what's already there. It's not intended as a increase of capacity for student population or anything. So we're not anticipating additional sewage, but we would envision that the point of connection would be very similar to what's there now. That's a general overview of the project and the way the site's laid out. We would envision, as part of this, most of this existing site is already impervious. It doesn't represent a large increase. However, there is some, and then obviously the parking area on the west side of Locust would be an increase in impervious. So at this point, we're envisioning an underground facility underneath the parking, with the discharge to that connecting to the existing storm sewer down at the intersection of Locust and Walnut. That's basically an overview of the site layout and the reasoning behind all of that. If there are any questions, we certainly would attempt to try to answer that for you.
You guys mentioned the vacationing of Butler Alley. I'm looking on my maps now, like where am I seeing this?
If you look on Google Maps, it's actually there.
Yeah, it represents this north side is Clifford Street.
Oh,
With 12 here.
Blow that up.
And Locust on the west side. So what's in blue is actually documented as Buffalo Alley.
This gray space between the storage building and this parking lot is Buffalo Alley. It's a dead end off of Clifford. Clifford is 20 feet wide, and when you get to Buffalo Alley, it skinnies down to 10. The face, we should say this, but the face of the storage building is right on the 10-foot separation between the backs of the residential garages. The existing storage building is here. And the residential garages sort of go in and out at around 10 feet here. And we're giving an additional 10 feet of space to maintain the 20 feet you visually get from Clifford Street. But we're looking to pave this as sidewalk because we don't want cars up against our building or parking right next to the building. This is required by zoning as our side yard setback, and we feel it gives us some relief to that.
There's no public use, or is there public use of this?
There is public use.
It really provides access. The rear of these properties, it provides access, but it's only 10 feet wide. But it does provide access.
I think the alley has always been 10 feet wide, but when they created the parking lot next to, the doctor's office, lower level doctor's office building, they put in an additional driving lane adjacent to the alley that allows that additional 10 feet. And I think that's how it went from 10 to 20 initially.
Yeah, I think you're right, Wayne. And that's, to get you in here.
Yeah.
That's when this widened out, and Tom had alluded to the fact that Clifford was initially a 10-foot wide.
Has there been input from the public at all, or any outreach to?
Not yet.
Not at
No,
this
we're in
point.
the very earliest planning stages.
Will there
This is one of our first steps.
Well, I think that the Welcome Center has communicated with property owners on 11th Street. And I know at some point we've had conversations with the city relative to people that wanted to try to access behind their property, but I don't know if you know, many years ago, if there was an alley, you know, between 11th and Locust. Yeah, I can say I grew up on the 500 block of 11th, so I know that there was a 10-foot wide alley on the 500 block. I don't know if there was one on the 200 block. So I don't know if they've had access to the back of their property in the past. And when that doctor's office building, which, you know, was really a pediatrician's office initially, was built by St. Joe's, if that was lost or not, but you know, I know that, you know, we've had conversations with the neighbors relative to you know, the past of individuals trying to access the back of their yard or driving cars down that steep slope, again, across our property. Now, just like we've done in the past or currently do with our buildings, surface lots that are accessible would be available to the community for use. So, you know, for parking, not for anything else. So that might, you know, that certainly will probably entice our neighbors to have some additional parking, but we will plan, we've had communications with different end user groups over the last 5 years where we've talked about what kind of additions to buildings were necessary or needed, which is kind of how we came up with these two concepts. But you know, I think that as we move further along the process, we can extend those conversations with the neighbors if required.
We did investigate briefly whether there was any evidence of some kind of curb cut here back behind the Welcome Center, and there's no evidence now of it along the sidewalk or the curb of there ever having been some passage behind the Welcome Center.
I have a question. What's in the storage unit?
Right now, there's old wooden desks that we're trying to get rid of.
They don't.
And we did look initially at converting the old storage unit into a facility, but the current height of the ceiling doesn't necessarily allow for multiple sports to be utilized, and there is no current running water or sewer to it, so we'd have to renovate that, and which took us now down the path of doing a larger renovation building.
It's fine. I mean, it's your property, you own everything now, right? And neighbors are used to slow traffic.
Yeah, we've tried to utilize that as a storage facility for, it's tough to get our box trucks down that street. There are community members that park on the north end of Locust Street, but not really. They'll park on the west side of the street, but not really in front of our parking lot or in front of the garage and ESL Center.
And this also cleans up that lot next to the special ed.
Yeah, it's an eyesore. And again, as Strom indicated, there's a steep slope. And our intent is to clean that up. We do have, as part of the ESL Welcome Center, there are a number of family events that occur on our grass lot directly to the north of the building. That'll give us, again, additional space to continue to have those family engagement events as well. So we look at it as typically as part of our renovations, we try to improve the area around it as well. And again, I think the surface lot would be welcome parking for community during the policy of the school district.
Seems like a great use of property.
Yeah, absolutely. I also like you know, getting that building back 10 feet from the neighbors, give them a little bit of extra space. you know, and on top of it, you have the sidewalk in case, you know, the kids wanna walk through there.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, you can expand on this. We've had, both at our one stop, but then we've had other conversations with the fire department on access points for their vehicles and how to best service that area with, and then having that additional 10 feet certainly improves upon that. And we've also talked about the various different fire connections within the buildings to ensure that our building will not diminish any emergency rescue services that are needed for that, for the community.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is we walked the site with Jeremy Searfoss. And we're all ears as to what, you know, he saw and what he felt. That's the design is evolving around that kind of interaction. His vehicular access up Locust Street, he was really the one who said we ought to think seriously about trying to get the parking taken off of Locust Street so that the street can be fully accessible at all times to emergency vehicles, because of the narrowness of the street. And then he was able to, he's comfortable coming down Clifford Street to the parking lot to the northeast. And the turning radiuses and the access points are designed around his largest truck. Or I should say the city of Reading's largest truck.
Yeah, those are, it's, you know, years ago, we didn't have the coordination that we do now. And it's nice that, the fire marshal can get in on the first, you know, so early and say, you know, I would like to see this. Because years ago, sometimes it would come in, we would be almost done. And then the fire department would want something. So, thankfully, we have a much better system than we did 20 years ago when I came onto the planning commission. And I'm glad to hear that, like I said, that fire marshal's here on the first step.
Yeah, I've been working with the Reading School District for our office, I should say our office has been working with Reading School District for about 16 years now, going on. And one of the real assets that we see in Reading that we see nowhere, and we do a lot of work from Carlisle to Philadelphia, and the one-stop effort at Reading is just, it's a unique and phenomenal resource to architects and engineers because of that early planning process coordination.
And we try to get everyone to do it, especially with these bigger projects. Because it does work out. Even when I opened my store, I went to one stop and got all the information I needed. Saves a lot of money in the long run. Will, do you have any comments?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't going to say much yet, but I will second what you just said about the having the fire marshal involved early on. In fact, when I was, you reminded me when I was on the school board for the Reading School District, and we were finishing up the plans for the school. This nearly 20 years ago now, we ran into that very scenario where we were for this very school, where we had something already approved by the fire marshal, and then late in the project, something else had to be changed. And if, I'm sure you've noticed, you mentioned, and probably our newer members would notice, we haven't had that kind of problem. And over the last several years, we've gotten, like you said, the input, and it's good to hear the feedback about the one-stop shop. And we occasionally get that, and we've heard good things about it. And but it's more than that. It's also the different departments doing their work and have everything ready so we don't have unexpected delays. Unfortunately, with my sporadic internet connection, I missed most of the first 20 something minutes of this workshop. I had tried to open the review letter beforehand, and when I tried opening it during the workshop, it would knock me offline. I couldn't get back on. So I caught the visual part of this, the audio, but I missed the beginning. So I'm going to hold off on any of my questions and concerns. But I very much appreciate the idea, as always, of the accessibility for emergency purposes for streets, and we'll consider the vacation. Of course, that would, of course, I don't want to repeat things that have already been said, so I better hold off on saying anything about that. So we'll address everything, and I'm sure everything will work out to be mutually beneficial. So I will study everything, and if I have more questions, I'll save that for the meeting. And we always appreciate the sketch plans, especially for a major project like this. And as been said before, the communication with the school district has been much improved, and it really, really helps us. So we appreciate it, and I look forward to looking into the details more. I don't want to repeat things like I said, so thank you.
Any comments or questions, Nelson?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm good. Looks promising.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, actually, I think we pretty much covered everything, unless Jerome has some more comments.
I don't, not at this time. But I believe that Tim Kroll may have some comments. He has a great deal of familiarity with this site. So I did go over it with him this afternoon, so we could coordinate efforts prior to the preliminary plan application.
The interesting thing is that our engineer, Tim Kroll, was an engineer on this project when we were changing it to the Citadel. And he was in private practice at that time. So he's very, very familiar with the original project and with this area. So this should go along very, very nicely.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair, we worked well together. Tim Kroll at that time and the district, and this was a complex project. That original part. I mean, this is much smaller. This aspect of it. Yes, we did. So we've had a long, positive working relationship with him, and that did work out. I had my doubts about some of the traffic and the steep slopes at the time, but he assured us it would work, and it did. So I respect his input.
Yes, luckily you don't have to do what Tim and his team had to do when they had to figure out where all the sewer lines are and stuff. Took them almost a year to figure it out. It's that complex up there. So it should be very well drawn out. And like I said, Tim's very, very familiar with it. So if no one has anything else to add,
Just one or two questions. I don't know if they can be answered tonight, but maybe we just start the discussion as we move forward through design. I mentioned, that the parking on the left there, that the ordinance requires some buffering. And I think Jerome had previously mentioned that we should coordinate with the city arborist for materials and stuff, but would it be typical to have a landscape buffer between the parking and the street? Anything in particular? Would it be something that you would, in this case, since it's a one-way street, is it something that you definitely would want to see, or would you want to focus vegetation more on the west side? Something that we can, like I said, continue to discuss.
we would.
Yeah, I think we could do
much more vegetation on the west side so that headlights do not shine into the neighbors' houses. That's generally how we feel. Sure. Since along Locust Street, you own both sides. As long as it looks pretty. Right, Jerome?
Yeah, I think we can coordinate that with the Public Works Department in more detail when we get to the preliminary plan.
Yeah, that was, that's consistent with what we had to do for the STEM Academy. We had buffering on the outer edges, so as the cars were pulling in the spaces facing the streets into residential areas, we had to put those in.
I think there is an effort of us increasing the number of trees as part of beautification for our city. And I think that is why the recommendation of making the city arborist came in. But I think perhaps that is the direction he may point you to. Yeah.
Any kind of response to possibly, and there again, it may go with Public Works or whatever, but to possibly making a portion, if not all of this, no parking throughout that section of Locust? Is there a process that should be approached or initiated to request that?
Yeah, there is a process for that, but I'm not exactly sure what it is because it's one of those things where once again, we would need to coordinate with the city council and I think the parking authority. But I agree with you that if we're going to put this facility there for the ease of the fire department, we should not have parking on that block close.
Yeah, I would question. I drove through there a week or so ago when we had a meeting at this, I think it was one of the one-stop meetings, and there were cars most of the way down the west side, and it was tight for a passenger vehicle to get through there.
Yeah, that would require an ordinance, and yeah, Public Works will be able to help us out with that effort. Going back to the landscaping, Lester Kissinger is the city arborist. He works in the Public Works Department, so we can bounce some ideas off with landscaping as well along the street.
Yeah, I think at a minimum, we probably try to get no parking on one side, so that when they do park on both sides of the street, it's, speaking of a kid that learned how to drive in a large pickup truck down Mulberry Street, it was surprised there weren't more dents. Maybe there were, I don't know, but I think I'm beyond the period. You can cite me for that, but it gets really tight. So even if we get one side of that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, in fact, I think about it, at next week's meeting, our engineer for Public Works usually comes to our regular meeting. We can bring that up and see what is required.
Is that Tim?
Yeah. Yeah, for a few more months yet. We have Tim. I think he will be retiring in September or October. He hasn't given a firm date yet. Awesome. He's like a friend of co-worker, my wife's at UGI. One gentleman said for like 5 years in a row, I'm retiring. Finally, he's retiring after 5 years of saying I'm going to retire. And Tim's the same way.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, sure.
So my name is Bob Hayes. I represent CHA Consulting on behalf of the school district, and we're looking forward to moving this thing forward mutually with the architect. Regarding Cedar Street there and the setback, my observations is there's a lot of foot traffic there, students in the morning. So I think in addition to fire access, that will help that also. So we are updating our plans so that CHA can put a budget to that. And then Wayne can take it to the superintendent. So we're looking to move it forward, finalize the plan. We just completed the geotechnical borings. We don't have the reports back yet. Might be a couple weeks before we get that. So we are moving in that direction slowly, but looking to move this thing along.
Okay, very good. And actually, July 1st, Dr. Mumine returns.
Well, actually, Monday was his first day as
Oh, really?
interim. He was as interim superintendent, and then July 1st he'll take on the title of superintendent. So yes.
Yes, so I'm sure you will enjoy working with Dr. Mumine. He took brought the school district through many projects when he was here previously. Okay, anything else? From anyone?
In terms of timing, when are we planning to see you again?
Well, you'll see us next Tuesday.
Okay.
We'll be happy to be here and see your regularly scheduled fourth Tuesday of the month meeting.
Do you propose any modifications to the plans from now till next Tuesday?
No, no modifications. As Bob said, we're working hard and putting together outline specifications, finalizing you saw some sectional details and things that we're developing so that they can put a good cost estimate to our schematic design. When do you suppose we might be looking at preliminary land plan submission?
Well, that's a good question. With the anticipated project schedule, as you mentioned, there is some time. We have vacation probably to work in there for the existing Buffalo Alley. With this being a singular phase, not a phase project in the general sense of the term, would the city be open to a combined preliminary final plan on this, just being a single stage project, or do you typically always go with a preliminary and then a final?
Just speaking openly at this point, it does not look like we'll need a MPDS permit for this project. It's going to be less than an acre, more than likely, but that's to be determined. Does not look like we'll need planning modules. It would be mostly just the traffic improvements that at least we're not working with PennDOT. Looks like all the streets are going to be our own. So that makes things a little bit easier. So I think we can do that.
So just working backwards, if we want to have documents finalized, permits, basically permit ready by, or we're looking at the end of the year, having the kind of the design done.
Yeah, I think February at the latest.
So we would want to be wrapping up land development if we could, December, January at the latest, which probably puts us with a 3-month process. Is that fairly standard, 2 to 3 months for land development?
Yeah, 2 to 3 months, because as Jerome said, we don't have to deal with PennDOT. Probably don't have to deal with the modules, because this would already have 1 EEU. And of course, Tim would know more about it, but probably they would have to look back at their records. If it's 1 or 2 EDUs, it's probably more than enough, because this is not, full use site. It's not used throughout the entire day. So we don't have very many outside agencies to deal with. It's when we have the outside agencies to deal with. For example, we have a produce store that they're in their final stages. It took them 2.5 years to get their PennDOT permit. So, and of course, the school district understands how that works, because they had to get one for the STEM school.
Is that the produce store on 4th Street?
Yeah, 4th and
Yeah.
Fourth and Elm.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
So to answer your question, I think we're looking at something in the area of a September to October submission,
Very good.
which is a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah,
It'll be here, yeah.
hey, it's amazing. You blink and it's like, oh, it's here.
Yeah.
No time to go to the beach.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming in for this session. We greatly appreciate it when applicants come in for for a sketch plan discussion. That we can talk about things like vacations and like the parking. Yes, Jake.
If I could just make any recommendation from my experience thus far, which is not allowed in council. I highly recommend speaking to anyone who lives within the vicinity that may be impacted. And I strongly suggest you doing this because what I've seen is that residents, because there's a change, even if it's behind their home. If you're a resident, and you're a homeowner and there's change happening, first off, people don't take kindly to change.
Yeah.
And that's just an automatic human reaction. And then to not be communicated to, oh my goodness, like I've seen people come to council and be very upset about things that are happening. And I would want to avoid any friction with any constituent and any opposition that they may have to this. It's better to, I think if it's communicated in the beginning up front, you can squash it and then kind of move forward. Just my suggestion.
Well, I appreciate that advice, and one thing that we did with the STEM Academy is that we did do door hangers to try to invite people to come to a session, and you know, it's all we can do is invite them. We didn't necessarily have a large turnout, but you know, we could certainly do the same thing here and invite the neighbors on 11th and even on Elm Street that are going to be impacted by if they do park on the half street. And we can certainly do that, and we'll certainly try to make arrangements for all of that as we move forward.
Thank you. I know with Councilwoman Ventura, when this time school was going up, I know that she even had community meetings, and I got to see how involved, right, the community got. There weren't many people, but the ones who were there were certainly listened.
Yeah, and those that do show up have a right to be heard, so yeah, we appreciate that.
And the effort matters.
Yeah, it does. It does. It makes it smoother when we do finalize a project. So yeah, we look forward to the interaction with our neighbors and our parents and our students. You know, we started with the students, said, "What do you need?" Now we get to get everybody to say what they want. You know, let's hopefully you can agree with it. So yeah, right.
And it does make a lot of sense. My son did attend there when it was Citadel, where it was turned into Central Middle School. So I'm familiar with the layout. It makes a lot of sense. Oh, and one last question, Wayne. The abandoned building on, what is that, 12th and Elm, that used to be the pediatrician's office.
It was renovated.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hope you guys are aware of that.
I haven't gone that way in quite a while. I'm gonna have to go see it now.
Yeah, and actually there's an individual, I mean, that's actually one neighbor that's kind of reached out to us. He does park directly behind that facility, even though he has, I think there's like 2 or 3 spaces off of 12th Street, but he's inquired about having more space, and so hopefully this will address that. I think he might run some type of food truck or something. He does park it behind there, but hopefully they went through planning to renovate their existing facility, but maybe not. So
I know that's
it's
something
gonna take a
Jeremy
look at.
Sirfos is gonna wanna try to put an end to is the parking of the food truck in the middle of, along the side of Clinton. Clifford.
There's something in the works for food trucks and stuff like that coming out.
Yeah, there is.
yes. Yeah. Well, I don't think he operates it out of there. I think he
No.
just kind of parks it there off hours. But it's a larger vehicle, so it kind of takes up more space than a car. So,
Yeah.
right.
And actually, that's
It
what I
would
was-
hinder a fire truck from getting down.
The splits are wider, yeah.
That's what this 22-page document's done. So we are looking at new parking ordinances. So
Well,
that-
and
like
certainly-
something we need to look at.
Before we go, Wayne, I want to thank you. It's got to be done, right? But so as you know, we potentially were losing $51 million in funding for the district, with the majority of that was earmarked for the STEM Academy. Fortunately, that was reversed. We did what we needed to do to get the documentation submitted in time to draw it all down. But Wayne had offered to write letters and visit legislators to advocate on behalf of the district and the city, because we certainly know that if that facility would have gone vacant and unfinished, it would not have been, would just create another eyesore in that area. And that's certainly what we are trying to prevent. We're trying to aid in, the improvements to go around our facility. So again, I do want to formally thank you for your efforts on that.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to work with the school district. And definitely with all of the major changes that have been made. It reminds me, Mr. Cotter, that I believe your firm did the plans for the renovations to Northwest Middle School.
Yeah, we worked on a miscellaneous buildings renovations project, which included all of the middle schools. We worked on northeast, northwest, southern, and southwest simultaneously as one project.
Of course, my daughter attended Northwest at that time, and beautiful, beautiful changes that fit with that beautiful Art Deco building.
Yeah, they're really, Reading is blessed, and the Reading School District is really fortunate to have some very beautiful architectural buildings associated with what were the junior highs and are now the middle schools, and the high school, of course. I don't know if you know this or not, but it was somewhat obscure, but I know the Reading paper published it. I think it was in 2017, Architectural Digest did a examination of the most beautiful high schools in the United States. And they identified Reading High School as the most beautiful high school in the state of Pennsylvania.
I had it somewhere.
That's available online.
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
Yes, they had
So-
great things to say about it. Yeah, we
Well-
just completed a renovation of the historical envelope of the building, as well as the staircases inside, all the exterior doors. It's a big job.
Yeah, just like the brickwork that was done a few years ago.
That was also like,
Yeah, that's an incredible job. So. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Well, thank you very much.
well, be sure to check out Northwest Auditorium. They renovated that. We renovated that. Now they have the Art Deco, all the original Art Deco features are visible.
Oh,
So
great.
you could, stop by the next time there's a performance.
Yeah, I have to, same principle as when my kids went. It'll be easy for me to get in there.
All right, see you guys.
Very good, thank you, Wayne. All right, let's see here. Next, we will move on to the zoning ordinances, and the first one is the short-term rentals ordinance. So, give it a second here.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. So, it's just with people moving around sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the microphones
Yeah.
pick it up and it's difficult to hear. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Jerome for an overview of the short-term rentals.
Okay, thank you. You have a draft version. This is probably the fourth or fifth version that staff has been working on it. We've also had some input from administration to provide their input as well. Thing we've been struggling the most with, as I brought up at our last planning commission meeting, was how it would be integrated in terms of residential zoning districts, since a lot of people perceive this as a short-term rentals as a part-time commercial use in a way. The R3 zoning district was the one that was selected because it was a closer transition to the commercial districts. It would be permitted by right within all the commercial districts, the CC, the CR, CN, and CH, and it'd be by special exception in the R3. We initially had it in all zoning districts by special exception, and that pretty much got we were basically told to amend it. So having said that, that's probably the biggest thing that is specified is where it's allowed. And then there's the provisions that are in the zoning ordinance, and then the provisions that are to be attached to the permit itself. So there are a lot of ordinances out there that have just the short-term rental ordinance. It's not part of their zoning ordinance, but it includes both, and it gets to be somewhat overbearing. And we certainly couldn't integrate all these requirements into the zoning amendment itself. So we stuck with things that would specifically be relevant to zoning, and then the additional requirements that are supplementary, we included as an attachment to their permit. So in either way, they're going to have to comply with all these regulations. And so that's where we're at. And we submitted it to the county. Have not received any comments back from them yet. But I'm thinking that we're looking at least another month of review before we can get a recommendation to city council. So that's all I have to say about it for now.
The only thing I was wondering about is if we might consider including the I forget what PO means, the RPO district along Kenhurst Boulevard.
Yeah, well, we can include it back in. I think we all know that everyone has their opinion, so let's
Yeah. It's the only reason I point that out is that because that like the CN or the CR district, that is a mixed use district of residential and commercial properties.
Okay.
So it would seem kind of strange not to include it.
That's for the Airbnbs.
Yeah. The other thing that I sent out today, I sent out an email with a picture of one of the Airbnbs I rented in Louisville, Kentucky. And it was a 12-room mansion that I was able to rent. Which kind of shows you that neighborhood we would consider an R2 neighborhood. So I'm not exactly sure if we should be exempting any residential district. I kind of find it hard because I usually rent a house. I usually don't rent an apartment.
Matt also has some experience with this. He did a presentation in front of what was the group called, Matt?
Oh my goodness, was it the Land Use Institute? I've done a couple
Yeah.
now, so I think it was Land Use Institute.
Yeah, the Land Use Institute that was sponsored by the Center of Excellence of Local Government and Berks County Planning Commission. But Matt, I'll let you tell them what you know about it.
Yeah, I mean, the way the Supreme Court has ruled this is these short-term rentals are commercial uses. And I understand people would want them in residential districts and that people like to rent out houses. But the fear and what we've been seeing the pushback for is, when people try to oversaturate a house, I guess you would say, either fit more people than is not appropriate in a house, or there's just almost a lane that becomes a party lane because they keep doing short-term rentals and there's not adequate control over who's renting it and what they can do while in the house. So that's been kind of how case law has fallen, is that these aren't actual residential uses, they're commercial uses. And that's how we've been treating and regulating them since that case law has been out.
Do you have any comments, James?
I just know years ago when I worked for the New Jersey Treasury Department, we had a thing where people had yard sales. And they were limited to the number of yard sales they could have a year. If not, it was the business they were having. So if they had, like John was saying, if they're doing it not as a residence or a side gig, they're doing it every week. If all it is for rent, then that's a business. It's commercial. But if they're renting it maybe summer or once or twice a month, maybe it's an Airbnb. That's what the purpose is. So definitely think there should be something in it that limits the number of rentals if it's not going to be a commercial license application.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's like the one house I rent in Rochester. The lady rents it. She's a traveling nurse. So when she's out traveling, she rents it.
But it is her residence.
But it's her residence.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about a condo or apartment or a house that's solely purchased to act as a hotel space.
Have you looked at other cities?
Yeah, well, I would say a lot of these case laws are coming out of like the Poconos, a lot of those places are being bought up to be permanent Airbnbs. So I do think there's some logic to that conclusion.
Yeah, interestingly enough, in New York State, localities are not allowed to make zoning ordinances on short-term rentals. They have to go by state law, and they can only apply state law.
Right. I know they're not forbidden. Like in Philadelphia or I think Bethlehem, they have an ordinance where the property must be lived by the property owner at least 51% of the year or something like that. Like they're very strict, but they are permitted in R3. I don't know, I would probably take a look at other cities and we would have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is Will. Our solicitor, thank you. Our solicitor just validated a thought I've been having about this when he said that these are, as our planning consultant had referenced to, these are really commercial operations. So now maybe my thought goes beyond what should be in a zoning ordinance, but I wanted to bring it up when we have the council liaison here present, is if these are commercial and it makes sense to consider them that way, then should there not be a requirement that these operators have a business privilege license? Shouldn't they be collecting the various business taxes, sales taxes, whatever would be relevant for any other commercial enterprise?
I'm going to look at the draft ordinance just to chime in again. What we see pretty frequently in a lot of these short-term rentals ordinances are they have to have some sort of hotel license or tax paperwork. I forget the exact terminology off the top of my head. So that might be something to consider as well.
That's a good answer, because we have a county hotel tax that's levied. So
yeah, that's what's often is required for these short-term rentals. Again, I forget the exact terminology, but it sounds like what you're thinking of, we're thinking of the same things. So
Very well. So yeah, but to see if there's anything, if we're supposed to be applying anything that would be applicable for other city businesses from the city's standpoint. But that's a good point about the hotel with the for the county tax, which I believe the city collects, because that's part of the fund for the civic center authority, I believe. So so that makes sense as well. So again, I don't know if all this should be in the ordinance or not, but it's something that needs to be addressed as a comprehensive policy while we're on this subject. So that's good to think about all that. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing to consider again is just to make sure that we incorporated this into the zoning ordinance by design. It's not a freestanding ordinance. And the supplemental provisions, if a lot of these things that we're talking about do apply, we can place them in that location. Like I said, that way it will work and would not be so overbearing.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a true. I know what you're saying because we don't want to like a lot of repetition in the in the code. But if something has to be, if it's better to have a cross reference, right? Maybe it could be done that way. But I leave that in the hands of the whoever drafts the language, whatever is the standard practice.
Isn't there a tax for the county, the city and the state? For hotel?
I think.
I think there's one for, so
Yes.
for Pennsylvania, 6%, the county 5%, and the city of Reading 6%. So with a business privilege license, I think, yes. And I mean, that's revenue for the city right there.
Yeah.
And for the county.
Exactly. Yes, my parents own a hotel and yes, we pay 6%.
Yep. There's a tax on every level.
Yeah, we pay 6% for to the state. Luckily, since it's in Royersford and they don't have any major facilities, they don't have a local hotel tax.
This is a very good topic because looking at the future of Reading and Chris and seeing development happening downtown and bringing people to Reading with the development up at the Pagoda as well. I think it's a very good time for this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's something that we've been batting around for what, about 2-3 years now, Jerome?
Yeah. But yeah, one thing that we should consider also, we did some research for VRBO and Airbnb just to see where the existing locations are, and we just like did vague word searches, and we have a lot of unlicensed or unregulated short-term rentals within the R2 and R3 zoning district. They're basically in the I'm sorry, R1 and R2. They're located in areas that are a little bit more spread out in terms of density. But that's something to also to consider. How are we going to get those? How are we going to get them in to be conforming, or are they going to be non-conforming?
So this is, yeah, not something we're going to figure out overnight.
We may just have to, I think what that calls for, as much as maybe we have been a little bit late, but it may just call for mapping for us to really find out what is happening and with whom. In the past, I was talking to someone and they say they have been using one of the department in the city that has been going out to assess the housing within the city, but maybe we may have to think slightly bigger than that to make sure that we are able to identify everyone who's running that kind of business. Yeah.
Very good. Any comments, Nelson?
No, I don't have any. I do rent a lot of Airbnb around the country, so they're very convenient.
Sorry, Nelson, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my I said no. I don't have any comments. I do rent a lot of
Okay.
Airbnb when I go out of the country, but I think it's
Mhm.
a good option to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
it is,
see.
I prefer it, but
Let's see what the county has to say. And like I said, we can reintroduce it in residential districts. Um, Administration or council will have the final say on it. So it may get kicked back. I mean, this is something that I don't think you're going to get a complete agreement on how to do it or how to regulate it or how to where it's allowed. So it's a tough one.
It is, but as we see it across the United States, I mean, everywhere you go, I mean, even international, I mean, it's just something that we're gonna have to face and make sure that we come up with some kind of procedure to move it forward. Better late than never.
Yeah, you know what? We're one of the first ones in Berks County, I think, though, to have this. Is that true, Matt?
We've done it for a couple of our municipalities, but not all of them. I would say maybe we've done 2 or 3. So I do think it's something that people are trying to get on top of, but it is complicated. And some people, it's fascinating because, you know, you wouldn't think a lot of these rural areas of Berks County would really need this type of ordinance, but there are people renting out there still. So, you know, we are seeing people we are seeing municipalities, even small townships, starting to look into whether or not this is necessary. So I do think you are one of the earlier ones, if not the first, but I think within a couple years, most municipalities would have some type of short-term rental ordinance just because of how much it's been growing in the past several years.
And one thing we could also do is next time there's a big event at the Sovereign Center, when it's announced, we can look in to see what options are available just to see, you know, where we'd like to get a grasp on where are the available locations at this time.
Yeah, there are not that many locations in the city.
Do you guys think there's like a timeline on progress? What's next?
the county has 45 days to review this.
30.
Is that correct?
30.
30?
And we did submit those this passing week, so we are looking at probably the first week of first or second week of, first or second week of July. For the
Yeah.
program. So,
Okay. So then we can take a look at this at the July workshop meeting again.
see what comments they have there.
Yeah, then we can review the Berks County comments at that time. And then we can go from there. Because it could be interesting to see it might be interesting to see what they have to say. Every once in a while, I'm amazed. They come back with some surprising things.
Okay.
Hey, I think we'll move on to the parking and loading ordinances, and I'll turn it over to Jerome for that.
Okay, that's going to come back. As you may recall, we had a good draft that was put together last year. And the year before that, we met with the Parking Authority and City Council to discuss differences of opinion that were worked out. However, since then, we have 4 new City Council members. So I think we have to go back and have that meeting again between City Council and the Parking Authority to discuss some of the issues that were previously discussed, as well as what can be done to improve the draft ordinance. I think we also had it reviewed by the county, but we should probably have it reviewed again. But this will be reintroduced to you very shortly, and that will be because that's going to be something that's critical to have in place for other amendments that we're considering, such as the TOD, the short-term rentals. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to have the update on the parking requirements so that we could get everything working in harmony.
I guess it will also be important with the changes that are proposed for Penn Square and how
Yeah.
they want to change the park there.
Yes.
Does anyone have any comments on this? No? Okay. All right, now we'll move on to the TOD ordinance. We received a little 4-page thing here, but was this drafted by Simone Collins?
Yes.
4-page?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Now, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
The TOD ordinance did come through us. We received a copy for us to review in February this year. The staff took some time to look at it, and we didn't make comments, which we shared with Simone Collins. He presented to us, to the Planning Commission, and last on 2nd of June, he was able to present to the council, and including the presentation with some of the comments that we made. One of the major one was the revision on the paper overlay, which he really wanted to hear the views of the commission and the council and the staff. And from there, he's going to move on to reviewing these ordinances, and he will bring back the revised version that we shall look at again as he continues finalizing it.
I think one of the most important things here is the definitions section. How many definitions are going to be added to the zoning ordinance?
We should also reference that this is TOD overlay district, and these are amendments to the zoning ordinance. It's not a freestanding ordinance.
So when we get to that point, we'll actually have the section numbers and everything where these things would apply.
Yes.
Good. Any comments on the TOD draft so far? Okay. Next up, we have the Vision Zero Action Plan. Who would like to take that one?
Jerome, you can add in what I missed, but Vision Zero Action Plan went hand in hand with the TOD, and Simone Collins has been sharing with both the commission, the presentation of the two projects. What has happened is Vision Zero, at this point, Simone Collins is working on using that to apply for a fund within the course of this June. And as a result of that, he did present to the Planning Commission, and we did give him gave a recommendation to the council on the 27th of May, and he presented to the council 9th as a draft, and on 23rd he's scheduled for adoption with the council. On the 26th of this month, also he's going to present to the community, and he will be having a community meeting during that time. And the reason why why this is happening is to make sure that ordinances are not made without the community being informed, and I like the fact that you brought that up. I think that has been scheduled. So at this point, is like, I mean, we're moving this forward to make sure that the council is able to embrace and adopt it for him to move on application for the fund.
Very good. All right, then we'll move on to the reports and the CRIS update. I did attend the CRIS meeting on Thursday, and basically all what they did was pay the bills. But they are in the process of making a what's it called? An application. They are in the process of writing the rules for the application process, so that people apply to the CRIS to take these properties. So we'll find out in the next few weeks or so what they have in mind. Yeah, it was actually a very short meeting. I think it was 30 minutes long. All right, just wanted to bring up one other thing. I will be sending out an email with this this article attached to it, and it says vehicle noise radar may be coming to Philadelphia. Vehicles that surpass a certain noise level would be fined. Yeah, these are AI units that get put at intersections like where our traffic lights are, and if the vehicle is a certain decibel above the background noise, the AI sensor takes a picture of that car's license plate, and the parking authority sends them a bill for breaking the noise ordinance.
That should be interesting here.
Yeah. There are a number of places that are considering it. No one has these yet, but there are quite a few places considering it. And I know that on Nextdoor and at city council meetings lately, I've heard it being springtime with the loud radios and things that people are a little up in arms about it. So I just wanted to point this out, and that yeah, there is such a thing, and of course the first people to have it were in Paris. So okay. Very good. Does anyone else have anything before we move on to the upcoming meetings?
Yeah, speaking of which, with the upcoming meetings, we're going to have a pretty full agenda for plan reviews next month, or for next week. Sorry, next week. We got, in addition to what we just heard from the Reading School District on Central Middle School, we will have the RAC Student Union. That's a preliminary land development plan. The Mitsubishi Chemical Parcel D land development plan. That's a preliminary plan. The South 9th Street parking land development plan. That's a final plan. The Reading Parking Authority 905 Green Street parking facility. That's a preliminary / final plan. And finally, the PSO Luzerne Place subdivision land development plan. That is a preliminary plan. So there'll be, you'll be getting a lot of emails from me.
It's good to see
Thank you.
that, it is good to see that we are busy, because I think a lot of places are like, oh, things are going to slow down because of the interest rates and things like that. But it doesn't seem like we're slowing down here in Berks County.
Nope. And then Simon's checking on what we need to do to finalize Supernatural produce that is close to signatures, and then escrow releases for First Energy Stadium and the STEM school. So we got a lot.
Yeah.
Information will be shared about those as well, once I have the final information that I need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, we did Supernatural Produce back in March of 2022, and we're just getting to the point where we can sign the plans. And mostly because of that PennDOT permit, which took them 2.5 years to get. Okay, upcoming meetings. Our next regular meeting is June 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Then our next planning commission workshop meeting will be July 15th at 5:30 p.m. And then our July regular meeting will be July 22nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion?
Okay, second.
Second.
Thank you, Nelson. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm opposed. I want to say.
Let's stay all night.
3-1.